Well, hello, everybody. You're not going to be doing well. I'm certainly not doing well. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you're checking out the Patreon. We've got One Leeds content as well on www.oneleeds.com. You can hit the description below and you'll be able to get articles, full match reaction, all this sort of stuff. Plain and simple, Daniel Farke's fault. For me, Daniel Farke's fault. Hideous mismanagement, poor utilisation of substitutions. I am completely confused with many embers of that game, of which maybe I'll need your guys' clarification. Some of you will think differently. We will be told sort of the same rhetoric, of which, you know, in these analysis, you get told all the time, calm down, we're only X amount of games in. But they're the sort of games for the opposition, of which for me, they're promotion winning games. If we'd have won today, we can't change the narrative here. We'd have turned around and gone, that's a massive win. That's a massive win for Leeds United, beating Burnley. Probably one of the three who I think are going to be competing for those top two. Many injuries, Manuel Benson. And I mean, Stev was playing today, wasn't he? But Manuel Benson and Jordan Bayer as well been out for this one. Big sort of misses from that Burnley Arsenal as well. Burnley, I don't think they were that impressive today. I really don't. But what they did was they hit us on the transition, they hit us on the counter-attack. And every single time they came forward, they looked massively dangerous in that first half, being the particular strand of that. Every single time they came forward, Gruev wasn't tucking in. We were building up in a 3-1-6 formation. The one man who doesn't go forward, I thought Ampadu was pushing a lot more forward than Gruev was in this game. And basically, when 6 or 7 of you go forward, which Leeds were doing in the first half, basically what you're supposed to get is Gruev just dipping into that that left back position and dipping into that right back position as well, just to cover and make it a back four when they're on transition. He wasn't doing that at all. It wasn't athletic enough. It wasn't physical enough. And if I'm being brutally honest with you, there was too many times in that game, I thought in that first half, when Leeds just looked bullied. I thought physicality and just athletic ability as well, just in terms of body frame, the utilization of your body in certain tackles, winning fouls, getting your body in the way of blocks. I just thought in that first half, they looked more physical, they looked more athletic than us, and Leeds just seemed extremely predictable and susceptible on the counter-attack. Unfortunately, that was the way of the first half. It was just... We have to talk about the obvious occasions, of which I'm not gonna touch over. I've mentioned at the start of this video that I think it's Daniel Farke's fault this game. 100, maybe not 100%, but at least sort of 85, 90%. But we do have to talk about the 10% of which it was the players, of course. And look, when we're talking about it being Daniel Farke's fault, he's the chess master in this. He's the one moving the pawns, of which are going to get Leeds to the desired result by structuring the framework, tactical, instigating tactical imprints on the game, bringing certain substitutions off, moving certain players in exposition, of course. But the players have got to take accountability for it as well, you know. Losing the ball in certain positions, not being able to play with your body in an open stance, of which I thought the fullbacks particularly struggled with today. But in particular, Mateo Joseph, the first chance of the game, I think it came too early for him. He intercepted, I believe it was a Stev at the back. He was through on goal. You could see Ocho, Jesus Christ, he made about 60 yards and was moving at breakneck speed. And actually, it looked like he might have put Joseph off right at the end. You could definitely hear him coming. I couldn't believe the speed of the lad. But Joseph, not good enough, put the ball about 2 or 3 yards wide. I'm a massive fan of Mateo Joseph, but I actually think that chance came too early for him, to be honest with you. I don't think he believed his luck at that point, but we look at the Portsmouth chance, we look at the Sheffield Wednesday chance, we look at that chance today, and they're big chances, big chances. And he should have scored, but on the watch along, you were getting people saying he's another Bamford, and look, unfortunately, you're going to get the minority who genuinely scapegoat players and go for players if they have one bad game. Look, I'm not going to do that. We're going to talk about form. We're going to talk about certain players. We're going to try and analyze the game in particular as well. But I'm not going to, just absolutely go for certain players. And I just think, Joseph was the hero for some in the last game, and that's how football works. I get it's fickle, but he's a young lad. Don't get on him for this game. Don't get on, because there was much more when it came to problems. I didn't think Joseph had his best game whatsoever, and I agree with that. But let's not get on him now. He's only a young lad, and he's been good for Leeds so far, and I don't agree with people doing that. So, yeah, the next chance, Willie Nonso had to score. Simply had to score. Didn't do that. Okay, it's another big chance missing. We know what Daniel Farke is going to go on about as well in his post-match press conference. Matteo Joseph and Willian Jonso changed the game. That's what he's going to say. It's so scripted, it's unbelievable, because he won't take accountability for how he mismanaged that second half, for how he mismanaged the substitutions. He won't do it. Never will happen with Daniel Farke. So what obviously we saw a penalty, stonewall penalty. Manor Solomon goes down. Joe Worrell goes through the back of him, literally goes through the back of him. And what I understand about the modern game is even if you almost go side in or you come in from the back, it's a penalty. It doesn't matter regardless of if you get the ball. That sort of rule went out the window about 5 or 10 years ago. If you slide tackle from in the back and you even make contact with the player, it's always given as a penalty. Always. For some reason, it's a stonewall penalty. I had the Burnley commentators on my stream, all said the same thing. Stonewall penalty. We didn't get that. The referee, I thought, was incompetent throughout, giving, he seemed to judge fouls on how certain players were diving. Hannibal was able to dictate the first half and the first 60 minutes purely by just feigning certain things and going down and riling certain things up. He just ran it. The referee didn't stamp down on anything, didn't have a quiet word in his ear or anything like that. And he just continued until he was brought off and then started serenading the Leeds fans and doing that. And almost just winded everything up, really. And he seemed to enjoy the pantomime villain role, it has to be said. But, a lot of you guys are going to be saying to me, what? I've not noted anything down. It is an instant match reaction, so I'm gonna have to go off the cuff here, really, when it comes to it. For me, substitutions needed to be made at the halftime interval. It was so obvious to everybody. And how many times do we see the same effing thing consistently? He waits. If it's not going our way, he'll wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. And then a certain player will come on. We saw it even with Jaden Anthony for 7, 8, 9 minutes. Joel Peru last season, 4, sometimes 3, 4 minutes. And he'll then bring them on. When Leeds are losing, by the way, when Leeds are losing or we're drawing a game, we must win. And he'd do that. He did that in the Rotherham game last season when we lost, making substitutions, obvious substitutions with the last 3, 4 minutes. Sheffield Wednesday, which we didn't get all 3 points from last season, didn't bring the substitutes on with the amount of time. These are young players who need to make an impact in the game, but they need to be given time. Give them time to feel the way into the game, right? He didn't make any changes at halftime. And for me, obviously, in that first half, we saw that Aronson made barely any sort of imprint on the game whatsoever. I don't think he should be played in that number 10. We mentioned it on the watch along. It should always be Willian Jonso central. We bloody saw it for Italy, even in the international break century, where he played a lovely little death ball through the legs of the opposition player, 1-0 to the Italian under-21s, and the media were raving about him. Okay? Look, play him where we've been playing him for the majority of the season and where he's going to make an impact. You need a player who is a ball carrier, but also who has low center of gravity, can work left or can work right, and is a good ball striker in the number 10. When he's played number 10, he's been effective. But like the West Bromwich Albion game, Willie had to take the onus to move into the number 10 because the manager wouldn't put him in there. He stuck with Brendan Aronson, okay? Brendan Aronson, I think, had 25 touches in that first half, okay? Wasn't in the game whatsoever. Wasn't in the game, okay? Was falling down a hell of a lot. I have to say this. It was very much of the old Aronsons. And what I'm not going to do is turn around and say, it's all Aronson's fault. F Aronson, blah, 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 blah. Aronson back to, I'm not going to give him a chance again. I'm not going to do that because I think Aronson's been good so far this season. I'm going to take a measured approach with Brendan Aronson because it was just an off game for him. He's actually pleasantly proved me wrong this season, okay? But it wasn't a good game for him today. He was falling around a little bit too much. The referee, I think, should have given him a few more fouls, 100%, because I think they were a bit rough with him. But at the end of the game, it's a championship game. You know what's going to happen. The referee's going to be crap, and it's going to be a physical game. So, Brendan, you've got to stay on your feet. But he wasn't giving us enough. When we were in those transitional moments, a couple of 1-2s where he would turn back, he would invert, take 1 or 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 extra touches, and he'd kill any momentum. There's a couple of times where Willian Jonso tried to make 1-2s with him. Aronson would completely ignore the 1-2, and he would then, like we'd see with Rutter and Somerville last season, when the 1-2 would almost be, it'd be synergy. It'd happen every single time. With Aronson, the ball would come into him, and then he'd take a touch, go inside, and then pass it out wide. That is because he's not confident. It's because he has to invert, get an extra touch on it because he's not confident in that one-touch football, okay? So it was blatantly obvious, Brendan Aronson needed to be changed. I think I mentioned in the on the watch along actually, that what I would have done is kept maybe him on for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, then made a change. 5 or 10 minutes, then made a change. Alai Gruev was offering zero protection, was offering us nothing in build-up. Now, a lot of you guys think that I have this agenda against Alai Gruev. I do not. I really do not. He's a limited footballer. We have two other players on the bench who offer way more than he does, okay? But he's effective in certain games. Today, I thought with Alai Gruev, you would get more effectiveness with him because he was part of a double pivot. Do we need a double pivot in every single game? I don't think so, because we're going to dominate every single game this season and we can have more attackers on the pitch than defenders. And I think we could almost go to a 4-1-4-1 a la Marcelo Bielsa in terms of attacking other teams. But what I would say is I have no idea why he keeps Gruev on the pitch. No idea. So he keeps Gruev on the pitch. He's not having a good game, in my opinion, whatsoever. He's been pressed by Hannibal, been pressed as well by Brownhill, and he's doing what he does very, very frequently, which he wants the ball all the time, but he's not creating any space. He's not getting the ball on the back foot and switching play. He's not doing any of that. He wants the ball to then pass it back to the centre-back. I get it. I understand that sometimes when that happens, you can create space. You can create pockets for other players, but he's not creating the right angles to do that. He's not. So he had to come off, in my opinion, at halftime. And I'd have brought Tanaka on. Tanaka had to come on. I understand he's played for Japan midweek, but he's fit enough to play because he's on the bench. Same with Ramazani. Fit enough to play because he's on the bench. We're going to get to him in a little bit. Rothwell obviously comes on, but he's bringing them on too late. And I have to look toward the end of the game there, okay? That was what had me spitting feathers. Ramazani on for 10 minutes is a piss take. It's an absolute piss take. We're not talking about internationals. We're not talking about anything like that when it comes to Largy. He is ready to play. He's done his interview with what was it, West Yorkshire Radio. Ready to play. Really excited. He came on, and what did he do? Immediately, he gave Leeds a bit of impetus. Immediately, he's driving Leeds forward through the heart of Burnley. He's attacking the defenders. Exactly what Willie Gnonto was doing when he was getting the ball in that central space. He was driving at the Burnley back four. And that is what creates space, because it means Peru can peel off. It means Matteo Joseph can go in between the centre-back and the right-back. It means you are creating space in an offensive phase of play. But if you keep static players on, what's going to happen? And if you keep players on who aren't getting any joy, thus probably affecting their confidence in the game, nothing will happen. And we could all see it. There was 3,000 of you in the watch along. Every single comment was the same. You all saw it. I saw it. We understand that with Gnonto, with Joseph, with the penalty, of course, that is player and referee impact. But from then on in, from that period, there was nothing in terms of impact. 3 shots on target throughout the entire game. And Burnley, in my opinion, throughout that game looked way more dangerous than Leeds. Way more dangerous. I get that we had 900% possession. I understand that. But as we learned from last season, it doesn't mean anything unless you're able to get through those gaps, create space, take a man on, and ultimately cultivate chances. We didn't do that. We didn't do that. It was huff and puff. James Trafford had a commanding goalkeeper performance. That would be nice. A commanding goalkeeper performance where any ball that was judged into the box, put into the box, I should say, it was claimed by him confidently. He looked good, I thought, and I'm actually surprised he's still playing at this level. He's probably going to be the goalkeeper of the season. And look, you know, that's how you get promoted, having a strong rear guard, and the keeper sets the tone for that as well. And you could see that the defense had a confidence in the goalkeeper. But listen, Leeds overall, I thought in phases were good at keeping the ball, were good at those basics. But overall, I thought it was a really, really poor match. A really poor match. We kept the ball, but we didn't do anything with it. And the second half was, I mean, you could hear the Burnley commentators, Burnley aren't getting as many touches on the ball. We're looking a little bit, Leeds are getting into the game a little bit more. But we didn't do anything. We did not do anything. It was lateral. At the end of the game, Ramazani getting 10 minutes was a joke in itself. Tanaka came on with 5 minutes to go. What's the point? One of you tell me what the point in that is. Okay. And then let me just get to the punchline as well. Byram comes on. So on one side, you've got Bogle, Byram, who I think both of them were playing right back. Bogle, Byram, And Nonto, but then Nonto took it upon himself to go on the left-hand side, evidently not with any instruction because that happened just sporadically in-game. So you had those two on that side and nothing was happening. They were getting in each other's way. Byram actually went into a centre-back. But the absolute killer, obviously not only Tanaka getting 5 minutes, someone who can actually maybe dictate tempo a little bit and is willing to get forward and get a strike on goal. He brings Ampadu off. No injury, because Ampadu, I thought, was actually getting into the game after that injury. I thought he was carrying the ball really, really well. He didn't look ginger at all when he was on the ball. It didn't look like he was sort of weighing in on one side or the other. He didn't say anything to the touchline. So someone said to me it was an injury. That's why he came off and Gruev stayed on. But nothing whatsoever from what I saw or what I heard. He was moving very, very freely. So I thought Ampadu was getting into the game a little bit more, driving the balls through to William Yonto in that central space. He then takes him off. So then, here we go. You've then not got any protection because Ampadu was providing the protection. And then he puts Gruev centre-back when Ampadu can play centre-back if you want. And if you want to bring Tanaka on and Rothwell on, they've got no clear defined roles. So it's a shit show. It's an absolute shit show at the end of it. You've got Gruev playing centre-back. You've got two right-backs on. You've got Tanaka and Rothwell. They don't know where they're playing. They're getting in each other's way. It was bizarre. Manor Solomon had a poor game. That's fine. Manor Solomon had a poor game. But take him off. Take him off. Ramazani, when he came on, was driving through the middle. But also, I thought when he got the ball, even on the other side of the pitch, he was driving at the fullbacks. This is who you've brought in for 11 million euros. This is essentially your permanent Crysencio Somerville replacement. Him. Because Solomon's on loan. And we're not going to be getting him after a season. So essentially, your Crysencio Somerville replacement is Ramazani. Him getting 10 minutes in essentially a top of the league table clash at home is a joke. So effectively through the game, the shape was completely lost. Manager. The substitutions were a joke. And then at the end, when you put Ramazani and Tanaka on for a combined minutes of 13, is a joke. It's an absolute joke. So once again, we're at the end of the game. Of course, Leeds have missed big chances. Completely understand that. But you are looking at the management from those chances on Daniel Farke. You're looking at the shape. You're looking at Burnley making changes before Leeds. I think it was 5 or 10 minutes before Leeds again. Sarmiento coming on. So Burnley were actually looking at getting something else out of the game. Sarmiento came on because they could see when Ampadu was off the pitch as well, in particular, Leeds were susceptible to the counter-attack even more because he's the only player providing that protection. Why? Because he can play centre-back and midfield as well. So he naturally just, is able to cover those positions a little bit better than Gruev, in my opinion. So, but Gruev going centre-back. So you are looking at the end where there are no clearly defined roles and you are throwing shit at a wall and seeing if it sticks. That is what's happening in that second half. Look, I have to say, because I have to balance this, and I have to balance this. That's my critique. But I have to balance this and say, ultimately, it's early on, and we have to say when we're looking at it that it's early on in the season. Can Leeds recover? Can we go to Turf Moor and win? Yes. I think with this Leeds team, if I was to put it right under Farke, I never see in game, when the tempo raises, the energy raises a little bit. And you've seen it against us, where a team ultimately takes it from there to there. In game, I don't really see that happening with Leeds. When it's a low block, I don't see the tempo increasing. And whether or not that's personnel or whether or not that's strategic, I don't know. Whether or not that's a mindset, I'm not 100% sure either. But the tempo, for sort of 2 seasons now, and we're not throwing the dummies out the pram here whatsoever. And I'm not saying what some of you guys will think that I'm saying. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But it might be a player taking the game by the scruff of the neck. It might be a managerial decision. It might be some strategy on the basis of that. But it's the tempo which needed increasing in that game. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen in 90 minutes. And we've seen that story before. That's the worrying thing. Stodge in the final third. Stodginess. No confidence. No vigor. Stodginess. Rudderless, really. So that is a big worry for me. That is a big worry because we spoke about this at the beginning of the season. Teams are going to do this against us, but the best teams will do this against us away from home as well. Look at the classic game. The classic game. You know, Leeds United 0, Sheffield United 1. They didn't do anything throughout the game. Now that was then. This is now, of course, but it's that counter attack. And if Leeds were susceptible to that then, when we dominated the ball in the final third, we're creating angles, chances, the tempo would increase under Marcelo Bielsa. You know that. It would increase very, very, very quickly in the final third. And Sheffield United were still able to get out and, do what they do. It's a different time then, here and then, of course it is. But I worry with how shapeless we look in the attacking third. I think it's so easy to defend against Leeds when we're in that final third. And we've not got that X factor moment. I think it is. And I think you saw it today. Burnley was so happy with us having the ball just in front. And because we've got those central players as well, we're looking for that overlap, but the overlaps don't come. And Bogle looks stodgy. Firpo looked a bit stodgy today. What's then the option? That's my worry. What do you guys think? I'm interested to see. I presume I'm going to get loads of your negative, Connor. But look, I've done this for 5 years. I get to a point where I don't actually care. But I think we've got to be really critical with this. I think it was a big game for Leeds United. One dimensional. It's very narrow, Connor. Use Brendan for high tempo in the last 20. My concern is we're struggling against low blocks again. Yeah, 100%, mate. Stephen said Burnley didn't look good at all as well. And I agree with you. I agree. And it is that tempo, isn't it? That rise, that like, okay, he's going to be in, this manager, because I don't think this group aren't going to piss around this season. I genuinely don't believe that. I think you get the understanding that from the 49ers perspective, this isn't going to be a piss around season. I firmly believe that anyway. You've got Farke who's there today, Will Farrell, I know it sounds daft, but they've got a lot of the associates and the investors there today. That was crap. That wasn't good enough at all. From a strategic point of view, I'm not saying you look at the guy's job, but you've got to, I've said this at the start of the season, you've got to keep him on a short leash, Daniel Farke, for this season. I genuinely believe that. The Portsmouth game, not good enough for me. Borough game, they made changes, we made changes. Embarrassing how that ended. Today, not good enough. Look, if we're to be super critical, and was the West Brom game good enough? Some would say yes, some not. But we have to look at this, okay? We have to look at this. He has got to be really careful in terms of how he utilizes Tanaka and Ramazani, in my opinion, because the board will be looking at that. They've made investments in those two. The back end of the window, these, if we're being honest, were probably the two where we're all turning around and going, well, okay, yeah, ballers coming into this team, they can make a difference. From the stands, they'll be looking at that, looking at Ramazani, looking at Tanaka, looking at the impact that they can make. And if this becomes a continuous thing, this is just my opinion. If this becomes a continuous thing where he brings Ramazani on for 5 to 10 minutes during a game and does the exact same with Tanaka, he is in problem zone. I'm telling you. Because invariably, the beautiful thing about this Leeds United side is we'll win more games than we lose. The beautiful thing about this Leeds United side is we can even say now it's going to be a top 4, top 5 finish. In my opinion, some of you will call me arrogant, but if I didn't say top 4 or 5, some of you would call me negative, so I can't win. They know that. They know with the investment that they've made in this club, whatever they may say when it comes to the square ball interview where it's like, we've got full faith in Daniel Farke, he mirrors Parag, yada, 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 fine. But if they don't see their investments playing on a regular basis, there is a common denominator here. If we're not able to break down low blocks and essentially change the patterns of play and show a difference from last year in winning games, okay? Because today what I saw was a Burnley side who didn't really do much, didn't really offer much, had many players out due to injury, and was still able to come to Leeds United and be fairly comfortable. If I'm a betting man, Sheffield United, if Burnley can look comfortable against that, Sheffield United will look comfortable against that as well, because they've got very similar players in terms of seeing games out, okay? And they've also got ultimate counter-attacking quality. What did we see last night? Sam McCallum scoring for them on the counter-attack. What else did we see? Gus Hamer scoring for them on the counter-attack. So what the 49ers will not enjoy seeing at the start of this season is potentially Leeds. And this isn't, I'm not saying this is going to happen, guys. I'm looking at worst case scenario here, doomsday, but I think you've always got to look at the worst scenario to build up a little bit of a prognosis of what's happening here and whether or not you're right, whether or not you're wrong. But ultimately, he cannot lose to Burnley and Sheffield United, in my opinion. Okay? And he has to start utilising this bench better. He has to start managing on a consistent basis this team better. You, all in your watch along and all in your instant match reaction here, when I'm doing this, would have all said there needed to be changes at halftime. We all saw it. It was stagnant. We've got options off the bench. What have we been boasting as Leeds United fans? Having options off the bench. We've been saying we've got X, Y, and Z off the bench, but they've got to be brought in, guys, in a shape. That the end of that game was I have to be honest, was a shit show. Two right backs on the pitch who were playing in the exact same position. Grev at centre back when you've got Ampadu, who was more influential in that double pivot and can play centre back. Ramazani coming on for 8 minutes. Tanaka coming on for 4 minutes. Perot out wide. Shit show, that game at the end from a management perspective. Okay, so much we can draw on, even when we're looking at the patterns of play, sequences of play. He has to get this right. Okay, and it's not about being positive or being negative. I'm looking at it from a business perspective. Okay, we look at the results so far, not bad. Okay, but today was a big loss. A big loss. And they were all there today, and they were watching it. Okay, and if they've got football brains, which I think they do, they'll be looking at that and they'll be seeing a lot of similarities from the end of last season. I have to say, the end of last season. Okay? Blackburn and Sunderland probably characterising that at Ellen Road, of which they were there for. Low blocks, counter-attacks. Low blocks, counter-attacks. And they were sub-teams to what we played today. But today was a big game to lose. A big game to lose, in my opinion. Burnley at home. The boy in the bandana, shout out to you, mate. A contributor as well on the www.leeds.com. When it comes to articles, change the formation, just do something. Can't keep trying the same formation and tactics. No number 10, then don't play the system that relies on one. Yeah, and boy in the bandana, I think you're absolutely spot on with that. You're playing a system of which is a 4-2-3-1, which utilizes a number 10. And Aronson struggled today, didn't he, mate? Aronson struggled today. So if he struggles, take him out. You can see it. I can see it. Do something. I was screaming on the bloody watch on for him to put Nonso centrally. Do it. We've seen him in the international break cause problems in that number 10, right? Okay. Aronson struggled today. We can all see it. Okay. But even in that first half, I would never have started with Aronson in the 10. I think Nonso's got to be in that 10 every single time. I really do. If you want Aronson as a narrow body on the left or on the right, okay. But I think we all knew in this game, it had to be Ramazani, Nonso, Solomon. That's what we all want to see. Aronson, look, has had a really good start to the season. But if we're all being honest with ourselves, we all know what 3 we want to see in behind Joseph, right? That is the 3. That is your Somerville, Rutter and Nonto of last season, okay? You've got to start seeing that 3. And if he starts pissing around with Ramazani and not putting him on for the desired minutes, not only is the team going to falter, but his position's going to falter. I genuinely believe that because he has been the marquee investment as a replacement for Somerville. And from a business perspective, they'll be looking at that and saying, well, why isn't this guy playing? Why isn't this guy playing? Because there's no reason to not play him today. There's no reason. No reason whatsoever. But he's not played him. And effectively, he's put Aronson in there, who has played 66 minutes in America on Wednesday night, whatever it was. And I understand Aronson started well. I get that. But Ramazani has to be in there. He has to be in there. The marquee club signing, and he needs to realise that quickly. Tanaka has to start playing. Has to start playing ahead of Gruev. In this, and let the reasoning for this. The reasoning for this. Aaronson was one of our best players. Sorry, Connor, but don't agree there, mate. But Jack, and I get what you're saying, man. I get what you're saying, and I respect that opinion. Of course I do. And it's subjective. I don't agree with it. I do not agree with what you're saying at all, but I respect it, okay? But Jack, are you starting him ahead of Ramazani? Are you starting him ahead of... Look, we heard what Angus Kinnear said on the Square Ball podcast. He went into detail on why they signed Ramazani. There is a reason that they waited. They said that on the podcast. They'd identified him at the start of the window. They waited and waited with Ramazani, and then they pushed it. The inflection on Ramazani, okay? There was a reason they spent the most money on him during the window. He essentially was the Somerville replacement. You cannot be playing Brendan Aronson ahead of him. Brendan Aronson has started the season well, of course he has, but you've got to look at game by game, okay? And at some stage, he is going to have to put Largy in this side. He's going to have to. Largy Ramazani hasn't been bought from a La Liga side to be playing, once playing at the Burnabout and the new camp. He's not come to be on the bench as a Brendan Aronson, lackey. And I understand Aronson's had a good start to the season. I do. Okay? I do understand that. But Largy Ramazani is your Somerville replacement. We're not having a conversation here right now. And as soon as Ramazani came on, you saw the impact, driving at the back four, creating spaces, being dynamic, can go left, can go right, was an ultimate problem already for the Burnley defense. But the manager doesn't put him on. The manager doesn't put him on. He gives him fucking, mind my French, 12 minutes. And the problem is we've seen this before with this manager. We saw it with the guy who's on the pitch for the opposing side today in Jadon Anthony, who I thought had a good game. Need better quality from Joseph and Nonto, not taking our chances. Greb just doesn't look the part. Really? Really, Harry? Harry in that first half, mate, he had 22 touches. How did he play? Where did he play well? There is never going to be a switch ball on the wings. It's got to be through the lines, pass, pass, pass. There's no variation. Sometimes you just need to get to the byline and cross inverted crap. Anthony, I completely agree with what you're saying, mate. We're saying it on the watch long in the first half as well. And I guess that's down to the players, mate. I do wonder if it's instruction, just on the basis that it happens so regularly that I feel like a player would be more inclined to get the ball out wide and whip the ball in. I feel like that would just be obvious. Maybe I've got that wrong. I clearly have got that wrong. But you saw it with Nonto in the first half, and we won a corner, but that was very much, of your man or Solomon's against Hull when Joseph came across the front man. He whipped the ball in, and it was a good block, actually, and it put Worrell into a bit of an uncompromising position. And I think the exact same. What's wrong with the old school winger? The old school winger getting the ball out of the feet and just putting it into the danger area. Why doesn't that happen anymore? Why is it all about getting the ball, inverting, pass, fucking pass? Mind my language. Why is it all the same thing? Why don't we just get the ball wide right? Let Nonto beat a man. Let Solomon beat a man. Get the ball in. Get Ramazani beat a man. Flood the box and get a man. Chances are it might deflect out to one of your players, and one of the players on the edge might put it in. A Tanaka might roll in as the offensive midfielder he is. A Rothwell might do that as the offensive midfielder he is. You don't take any chances. What is a winger if a winger isn't bypassing a fullback? What's the point? If we're just getting the ball and inverting it into a central space of which the opposition is clustering. For me, that's a managerial instruction. Could be wrong, but I don't understand why they'd continue doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I tell you what, we'll leave it there anyway. I don't want to rumble on anymore. But listen, we're going to be back with the debrief on Monday. We'll be back with the 3 things that we learned tomorrow. If I think of anything else to come back and talk about, we might do an evening stream tonight if you guys want to do one. We might do a little bit of a full timer. I think we might do actually. So stay on track for that. We'll do a late night Leeds. Listen, please make sure you like the video before leaving. Let me know what you think in the conversation below. Do I agree? What do I agree? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. Thanks everybody, and really appreciate your thoughts. I'll see you in a bit. Cheers.